Khabib Nurmagomedov, a name that commands respect the moment it's spoken. A name the world can't stop repeating. The undefeated titan of mixed martial arts. The man who retired with a spotless record, 29 wins, 0 defeats, and not even a crack in his armor, to millions. Khabib is the embodiment of pure discipline and strength. His calm, icy demeanor inside the octagon is enough to make opponents falter before the first punch is even thrown. They called him the Eagle, circling above the competition, watching every challenger as if they were nothing more than prey. But then, questions began to surface. Could that unshakable exterior ever break? Stories resurfaced. Clips of the night he vaulted out of the cage and went after Dillon Danis. Old rumors about fiery remarks supposedly aimed at political leaders. Whether true or exaggerated, they became fuel for a narrative no one expected. Was Khabib the ultimate model of control, hiding a storm that could erupt at any moment? To understand how that storm reached its peak, we need to step back. Behind the glow of triumph were faint cracks in the steel mask. And what happened next would shock the world. Every time Khabib walked into the octagon, the atmosphere shifted. The crowd held its breath. This wasn't just a fighter stepping into the cage, it was a symbol of loyalty, relentless training, and unbreakable discipline. His homeland, Dagestan, stood behind him. Fans around the globe admired not only his submissions and wrestling dominance, but also the way he refused to play into trash talk or theatrics. Yet even the strongest legends face scrutiny. As his fame grew, so did debates about his personality. Was he a humble warrior, or simply a cold, distant champion? Rumors of heated outbursts and whispered controversies painted him in a light some found troubling, and then came the night that changed everything. Las Vegas, UFC 229, the fight that media hailed as the showdown of the century. Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Conor McGregor. On one side, the stoic eagle, built on discipline and silence. On the other, the wild showman, notorious for his trash talk, mind games, and theatrics. The tension was unbearable from the opening bell. Round after round, Khabib smothered McGregor with his relentless style. McGregor fought back briefly in the third, but by the fourth round, the outcome was inevitable. Khabib forced the submission, a flawless victory. The Eagle had conquered the most outspoken rival of his career. But the fight's end was not the end of the story. As fans rose to cheer his greatest triumph, chaos struck. All eyes turned to Dillon Danis, McGregor's teammate, who was shouting insults from cage side. In a flash, Khabib scaled the octagon fence and launched himself toward Danis. Security rushed in. Fists flew. McGregor himself was caught in the mayhem, and the arena dissolved into absolute pandemonium. What should have been Khabib's crowning moment suddenly became one of the darkest controversies in UFC history. The fallout was immediate. Fans loyal to Khabib defended him fiercely. He was provoked. He was protecting his honor, his family, his homeland. But critics fired back just as strongly. A champion can't behave like a street brawler. He ruined his victory with a single reckless act. The UFC had no choice but to act. Khabib's purse was slashed, his license suspended. For the first time, the aura of the untouchable warrior seemed fragile. To understand why, you have to look deeper. Khabib wasn't known for losing his temper. His late father and lifelong coach, Abdul Manap, drilled discipline into him from childhood. Control your emotions, or they will control you. But McGregor and his team had crossed every line in the build-up. They insulted his father, his religion, his country. Months of pressure boiled over in that one moment, and the dam broke. The media storm was relentless. Around the world, headlines screamed about Khabib's loss of control. Yet back home in Russia, the story was completely different. He was welcomed as a national hero. Within hours, President Vladimir Putin personally congratulated him. Across Muslim countries, he was celebrated as a symbol of pride. Lavish rewards were showered on him. Real estate, cars, support for training facilities. While in Nevada, he was being fined $500,000 for the very same act. This paradox followed him everywhere, reviled in one corner of the world, exalted in another. And then came the rumors. Whispers that Khabib had made political threats. Sensational headlines branding him as unstable, even dangerous. None of these claims were ever backed by credible evidence, yet they spread like wildfire online. Social media fractured into two camps. One side believed the worst, convinced the eagle was reckless, even a liability. The other stood firm, defending him as a loyal son, a disciplined champion, a man of faith. Suddenly, Khabib's career seemed buried under controversy, more defined by rumors than reality. Hashtags like "Yo boycott Khabib" trended. Some fans who once idolized him admitted they felt betrayed. Others doubled down, more loyal than ever. But as the dust settled, something became clear. Many of the harshest accusations were baseless. Nothing more than clickbait stories built on anonymous tweets and tabloids hungry for drama. In truth, Khabib was never banned for political threats, never sanctioned for wild claims. The scandal lived mostly in headlines, not reality, and so the question remains, what is Khabib's true legacy? He walked away from MMA undefeated, 29 wins, no defeats. He never returned to the cage after the passing of his father, choosing instead to preserve his perfect record as a tribute to him. For Khabib, retiring at the peak wasn't weakness, it was strength. A decision rooted in loyalty, humility, and faith. Even in retirement, he stayed true to his principles. He avoided the temptations of fame and wealth, turning his focus to family, faith, and teaching. Today, he mentors the next generation of fighters, including UFC champion Islam Makhachev, and continues to promote the sport through his own organization, Eagle FC. Despite the noise, the rumors, and the controversies, Khabib remains what he has always been, a disciplined warrior who let actions, not words, define him, and wins. 0 losses, a career untouched by defeat. But the greatest lesson Khabib leaves behind is not just about fighting, it's about resisting the chaos of public opinion. In a world where reputations can be destroyed with a single tweet, discipline, loyalty, and faith remain unshakable weapons. He was never perfect, but he never let lies write his story. And perhaps that is why Khabib Nurmagomedov will always be remembered as more than just an undefeated champion, but as the eagle who rose above it all.